everyone, and welcome to the Devmar Debugged podcast, where experts from top companies all over the world share their insights on everything developer marketing. So today we're joined by Nikolas Dimitroulakis, Chief Operations Officer and co-founder of Apyhub. In this episode, we're talking about what makes a developer buy a product instead of doing it themselves. But before we start, just want to say hi. Hi, Nikolas. How are you doing?
Hi, Therese. I'm doing great. How are you?
Good as well, and it's great to have you here. And before we actually, dive into the meat of the episode, I thought we could start by you talking a little bit about yourself, what you do, Apyhub, all of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thank you for the invitation, first of all. Happy to be here. So, as you said, I'm Nikolas, co-founder of Apyhub. Our story starts in the Netherlands, together with Samuel, my co-founder. We worked in different startups, different domains. But one of the underlying issues that we observed was how developer productivity, creativity was often stalled or interrupted in the plethora of smaller, boring, necessary components and stuff that developers build or have to build and maintain with their applications. So our response was Apyhub, which is an ecosystem where these kind of components are offered as a service so that developers don't have to build them from scratch. So that's where we are. We have been growing this company for the last couple of years. And I don't consider myself an expert, but I am certainly interested in the domain, in what makes developers think about building or buying and how they go about taking this decision. So happy to be part of this discussion.
Oh, no, great. It's great to have your insights as well. It's such a fascinating topic. How did you end up, creating this, targeting developers? What interested you in that?
Well, I like how you said ended up, as I said, technology was our passion, right? So even though my background is on mechanical engineering and not software engineering per se, through my MBA, I had the chance and the opportunity to work at some very, very high-paced, fascinating startups. And for those who have been lucky enough or unlucky enough, depends how you see it, to be part of the startup, you know that it's a real-time MBA, right, in practice. So there are a million things to learn, a million things to actually see, and a million ways to fail as well, right, and learn from that. So in the tech startups, of course, the majority or the focus is on innovation and engineering. So myself, I was mostly on the customer side, on the delivery side of things, but I was very much involved and interested in how well and how quickly we were as a company able to deliver and ship things to the market. So for me and for my co-founder, who was at that time the CTO and heading the engineering teams, we were very much interested in understanding what and how we could help our teams be so productive, more productive actually, right? So how we could remove obstacles from them. So our ideas and our what evolved to become our startup was an answer to our own problems, because we were trying to find other people or other companies that were offering something like what we ended up offering ourselves. So we wanted to help our teams deliver better and quicker and faster, because this is what our customers were demanding. So that was the reason.
Yeah, no, that's great. And as you said, or as I often hear when I talk to everyone who kind of works with developers or, targets this sort of audience, people tend to say that they are unique, with their own challenges, their own pain points. In your opinion, just what makes the developer audience so different from others?
You mean when it comes to marketing, right? So
yes, so if you're trying to, engage them in your product, or, trying to communicate with them, they often, again, from what I've heard from other developer marketers, and it just seems so different from everyone else.
Yeah, they are different, and there are a couple of things. Of course, in a sense, every job is different, right, and every role. But there is a difference in the way that developers are actually working on every day. For example, developers, and that's something that is also interesting for on the marketing side, right? So developers are really curious. They are not, so like let's say myself, right, or a business owner or a marketing professional will never look or test a CRM option that just came out just for the sake of testing it, right, and trying out to see what is this new CRM system, right? No one cares. If you already have a CRM system and you're happy with that, you will never invest your time. You will never be curious enough. Developers are inherently very curious. They will come, they will try your product, and maybe they will not use it because they don't need it right now, but they will store it somewhere in their mind as useful for whenever in the future this might come up in their own projects or in their company's projects. So first of all, they are very curious. Second of all, they are a bit they are very good at what they are doing, but that's the difference. That's not says it all. They are they have one of the professions that are very tangible and very easy to identify as not sufficient or as fraud. That you could be a marketing person, or you could be a finance person, or in leadership positions, and it's still not very clear. You can go around being in a company without being so great in the end, right? There's no easy way to identify the great from the not so great. For other professions, such as developers or as chefs, you cannot hide. If you cannot cook very well, the first plate that you will make will not taste great. So you don't have a job the next day. So they are under extreme pressure because they know that they cannot hide. Developers cannot hide, and that's often makes them bitter in a sense, right? That they don't accept others, that they don't go through that. That I wouldn't call it suffering, but under this challenge, right? That every day they have to deliver, and they cannot hide that, and they cannot. Okay, in big companies, I guess you could be a developer hiding or not performing really well, but it will show. If you are not a good developer, it will show. And the last thing I would add to that, of course, there are millions of differences. I'm just highlighting the ones that come first in my mind, is how inadequate sometimes they feel, not because of their inabilities, but because of the way that the world around them changes, right? So look at what's happening with AI. Look at what's going on with new technologies, with new programming languages. What you learn as a developer, as a software engineer in university, is outdated really, really quickly. So in order to keep up or not, if you don't keep up, you are under extreme risk of, being outdated or of not being able to find relevant projects and relevant jobs because the companies are asking for the most advanced stuff you could have, right? So there are people, and that's how marketing needs to think, is that there are people who are out there looking for and engaging in discussions that will help them stay up to date.
Right. That is so fascinating, especially the second thing you said, because I've never heard it before. I've heard it so many people saying, oh, they're very skeptical, the reverse marketing, all of that. But I've never had it explained like that, and it makes so much sense. I think that's...
Yeah, they are. I mean, we all say, so there is always that, almost like a gimmick, I would say, about developers hating marketing. I think what they hate is the marketing that is not good, actually, right? In the same way
pushiness,
that, yeah, because a good marketing, I remember, because I was also one of these people that I thought marketing was ads, right? Or it was something like that, right? Or creating a banner. But actually, I remember in the NBA, we had one great professor in marketing, and he said something that is not his line, but he said it is that companies do two things, innovation and marketing, and there's nothing else beyond that, right?
Mm.
And marketing really includes understanding the users. So if your let's say ad strategy or your promotional strategy doesn't take into consideration who are the users, so everything that we said before, who are the developers, what kind of
Mm.
developers, are they front end, are they back end, what are they struggling on? So if you create a strategy without knowing and understanding who these people are, then it will be a bad marketing. And that's what developers, but I think everyone really doesn't like.
No, absolutely. And all of that also means that they'll make their decisions in a bit of a different way, isn't it? Considering everything you were saying. Um, just wondering, in your opinion, what are the most important things for developers when they're looking to choose a product? I know it's very broad because obviously different products will have different things. They might be looking for something different at any point, but things you have noticed in your experience that is really important for developers when they're looking for a new product.
You mean, when they're looking to buy, you mean, right? Or when they have this
Or
discussion to
to
build
choose
or buy, or in general?
if they're looking to choose a product, whether buying or creating, like
Yeah.
what are the most important things for them first?
Yeah, I would say, and this is not something I always knew or I always thought, is the reputation from others, so peer
Mm,
reviews. For developers, the most important thing to know is what other developers think about that. So if you have a product, and when we talk about developer marketing, let's put that as an asterisk, we talk about developer tools. Because if you, let's say, you are trying to market, I don't know, something else to developers, then they are people like you and me, right?
mm-hmm,
Right now, we're talking about promoting and marketing developer tools. So one of the things that they care about, the most important thing that I think they care about is other and social proof. So other developers with similar issues use that product. Of course, you could focus on the features and show, and the cost are considerations, and we can go through the whole list of what exactly they
mm-hmm.
are balancing. But for me, the ultimate decision is the social proof, because the social proof also takes away part of the other criteria. So if, let's say, I'm looking for a CRM, let's not talk about developer, right? Let's say the example we said before, we're looking about the CRM, and I'm a marketing manager in a medium-sized company of 150 people.
Mm-hmm.
And I see another marketing manager of another similar company taking this decision, I kind of assume that that other person did all the analysis that I don't have time or experience
Right.
or even the interest to make, right? So I'm trusting others who I consider to be good decision makers. I really believe that social proof is in the top three things that developers are looking for.
Amazing. And so what you were saying before about them being very curious, I was just wondering if that would make them, if that would make it easier if you're trying to promote a product to a developer, because they're already interested in at least trying it. But at the same time, if there's no social proof, that can make it harder at the same time. It's a interesting conundrum.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing about what I said before is about the curiosity. So they will come and they will try your product, and maybe they will not come back, but they will keep you in consideration.
Mm,
Of course, if you have more social proof and you have all the rest that is required, it's more likely that when they do need that, they will come to you, because perhaps they are coming to you, they are testing, and they get convinced on not to try you, they get convinced to try this solution, right? So you
right.
might try a CRM only to understand that you need a CRM, and then you will go find another one, let's say, right? So
Yeah.
it is important that you have all the features and all the functionality that is required, so that they pick you when the time comes to pick, right? And
Right.
another thing that they do is that developers are also looking and experimenting with things as individuals, and they are the kind of first filter because before this goes to the company, right? So they will come and they will try you for their own simple projects.
Mm-hmm.
But in the end, the goal, of course, is not for a single developer to use your product, it's for them to go to their companies and recommend this product. You know, it's really fascinating to see, and that's one of the good things about being in this space, in this era, is that developers are very in high demand. So when they are in companies, they have the ability, they have a lot of purchasing power. So their managers
Mm.
tells them, what do you need to be happy, right? So
Yeah.
uh, they are not ashamed to say, okay, I need this and this tool, and I need a co-pilot to help me build my code faster, and I need some other service that I found that helps me do that better. And the manager says, yeah, sure, whatever makes you happy. I don't want to know, right? I
Mm.
mean, of course, I want to know, but it's more and more frequent that developers, departments give budget to their developers to be as productive as they want.
Right, and it's the fact that they're the ones with all the technical knowledge, isn't it? If a developer says to their manager or to, someone who doesn't understand much about that, oh, this is what I need, they'll take their word for it, won't they?
Exactly, exactly. They leave it up to them. So the developer will not go to the manager and say, yeah, find me something that does this better. They will say, I already have something. I just need your credit card so I can have it for me and my team, right? And if it helps everyone, then that's even better. I mean, we do that, right? In our company, in Apyhub, we do that. Developers come and say, okay, I need the co-pilot, right? Or we need this
Mm,
proxy or this service that will save me 20% of time or something like that, right? And we
right.
give it because we do want to have this extra 20% of a good developer not focusing on stuff that is not core to the business.
Of course. No, that makes a ton of sense. And yeah, I kind of leads very well into, the whole buying versus creating. There might be times where a
Yeah,
developer, instead of, coming to a manager and saying, I need you to buy me this, maybe they'll think, oh, it's just easier if I do it myself. What reasons, in your opinion and experience, are there for this? Why would they choose to create versus buy?
yeah. That's amazing, actually, right? Because where do you go to, like to normal meetings when you pitch your company, etc., and you classify your competitors? Usually, it is other companies that are either doing something similar or exactly the same, whatever that is. And for developer
Mm,
tools, the main competitor is developers. There is nothing that you can do as a developer platform that other developers will not be able to do if they
mm,
wanted, right? So a big part of your growth of your growth strategy and your marketing and your go-to-market is how to tell a story that tells developers that they don't need to build what you have done, right? And it's better to take it from you. But yeah, the main criterion, if you ask me to say only one, and I think that applies to everything in life and personally, is that you don't outsource something that you like doing, right?
mm,
So if I look about it myself as well, that I don't want to outsource the creative aspects of my work. I want to outsource, accounting that I hate. And so it's the same thing almost for developers, right? That they are highly skilled individuals and they are hired by companies to solve complex business problems, let's say, in a way with technology, right? But it's still business problems. Now, there are items that the developer will have to do as part of his job that are not so important, right? But they are underlying, functionalities or, let's say, secondary to the business.
mhm.
So I would say that these things are the first ones to pick to outsource. And it's also what you said before, it's about control. Whatever you build, you have more control over, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
the things that you will buy are the things that you don't mind giving the control of, right? And these things cannot be your core stuff, right? that's the example, that you outsource the stuff that you don't mind giving away the control over the code and over the architecture. And again, it's about trade-offs, because sometimes you will sacrifice this control for the sake of, ready-made documentation. Sometimes we only think about the time saved from developing an application. But it's not only the development time, it's also the maintenance time. And it's also the documentation, building, and maintenance time. So in the end, if you give it to a manager, it's a cost decision. So how much time, how many resources do we need in order to build that and maintain it in the future? The need for customizations. So that again goes back to the control. Like in external software, you don't have much control. You cannot make customization, but most of the software out there for developers right now, they have extended compatibility, integrability. They have a framework to be able to integrate it anywhere you want. The features. I mean, think about what I said maintaining before. What are all these bug solving? I remember in the days that in the other companies that, you think you built a feature, but you didn't. You built the first version of the feature. This feature will end up having bugs. So it will end up taking time from the development team to fix them. So an external software will not have this problem. There is a team dedicated to fixing these items that appear. So these are, I think, the key trade-offs that developers have to play.
So basically, if you're trying to, obviously sell a product to a developer, or at least get him to recommend it to their own company, it's all about as well reducing barriers for them. Like if you can provide them with integrations, if you can provide them with that, then they'll be more likely, if they can, of course, do it themselves. You just have to make it as easy for them as possible.
Exactly. Integrations are key, right? You want to give them software that can be easily added in their, in the framework, in the suite, and at the same time not making it heavier. Because that's another disadvantage of building yourself, is that, okay, even if you build it in a perfect way and you maintain it in a perfect way, it still takes room, right? It takes a memory, it takes energy, let's say, to keep that. So they want something that is reliable and easily integratable within their ecosystem, I would say.
Yep.
No, and I say ecosystem because they might have different stuff. You don't want it simply to be integrated in their code. You want it to be perhaps integrated with 2 or 3 or 4 systems. And they need to be able to control that. So giving the sense of control, them having it because they haven't built it, is, I think, the key to a successful developer product.
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense. And I feel like if left to their own devices, it always comes to perhaps manager decisions. No, we don't have time, or we don't have money, or time to market. We need to get this out. And you'll have to
exactly
to buy
and the time to market is very important.
But time to market was one thing. Actually, I was just thinking about that because of how long it would take to create a product, fix bugs, all of that. So I don't think a manager will be very happy if you tell them, oh, it might be a few months before this is ready, or a year or something. So yeah.
Exactly. And this is where there is another change or another differentiation of developers between smaller teams, startups, or established organizations. Like, so the smaller the team is, if it's a startup that has more, tight deadlines, there's no real, fat in the organization, right? There's no room to have 2 people only researching about, possible stuff, right? You want everyone to be in the launch war, let's say, right? So every day counts. So you don't want to waste time building unnecessary stuff that is good to have, but for now, you just want to launch, you just want to get some social proof about your product. So you want to build as quickly as possible. So that's another factor in the decision-making process. That in the beginning, you might want to outsource more stuff even.
Right. Yeah, of course. That makes sense. Smaller companies won't have the same resources. Yeah. Do you think, or have you seen or noticed moving forward that there's more movement towards just buying tools that are already done? If there's like a trend on that with, say, with AI and all of that, as you were mentioning before, so many tools are out there at the moment. Is there something you've noticed that developers are preferring to buy right now? Or
Yeah, what I see and what I feel from the market, especially from the AI explosion, let's say, is that there is an increase. It's not coming directly. I think it's more connected to what we said before about the purchasing power of developers. That it's like we give them money to buy assistants, right? And a lot of the technology and a lot of the developer platforms out there are focused on helping developers, right? Help developers with with, I wouldn't say replace coding, but there are a lot of platforms. For example, there is a huge market for low code, right? Which is almost like a new domain. These people are developers or automation engineers, right? Whatever we want to call them. That pick and drag and drop. For example, the Retool or other platforms like that. I don't need to advertise, but they are so easy to be used. And you simply drag and drop components, building applications almost from scratch with very, very limited coding or traditional, let's say, coding experience. So there's a lot of software out there that enables developers, and I would say more and more people, so even lower code developers, to build applications faster and better. And the AI for me is at the moment, but will continue to be for a large extent, a very good assistant for developers, either by automating repetitive tasks, generating code, and even assisting debugging, AI-powered testing, code review tools, all that kind of stuff that will ensure higher code quality, faster development cycles, co-pilots, stuff like that. And of course, collaboration items, so that you can do all that in a collaboration setting with bigger teams, remote teams, which is a kind of another current theme, and all that combined, let's say.
Right. It's not exactly perhaps the topic of today, but I was just interested in what you just said about, the low code. Is this something that perhaps concerns developers if it's something that more people can do, say, for example, I don't have any coding experience. If I could just click and drag stuff and create a product, is that something that developers are concerned about, or?
I don't think so. I don't think that they even consider that to be a real, real competition, because it's not, to be honest, right?
Yeah.
So the low-code platforms are helping, and they are widening, let's say, the spectrum of people that can call themselves developers. It's true. But it's the same with WordPress, right? That in the 90s, you wanted to make websites, you would hire a developer. Because that was impossible to do, right? Right now, you can make your own, Teresa WordPress site and put everything about you there, and that's fine, right? It didn't make you an expert developer, but the low-hanging fruits, they are there for everyone, which can be either as a basis of organization or as a way to make certain things quite faster. For example, if you just want to make your own web shop and sell your, I don't know, cookies or anything else that you make and you create, you don't need to be a C++
Yeah.
developer or a React developer. You can do it yourself, and this is where the direction is going. But on the contrary, and that's where the really interesting stuff happens, is that the regulations on compliance and stuff like that for larger organizations that manage data, user data, and so forth, especially in Europe, is growing. So creating very robust applications with cloud security and making sure that the data is processed and consent are given to the right levels is also super important. So this is where you not only you need very good developers, but you need good developers who also understand other frameworks as well.
Yeah,
By
of
the way,
course.
this is one of the advocates of building yourself, is that you have more control also on stuff like security compliance and your data, your servers, and everything. But yeah, there are these extremes. So on the one hand, it's becoming more accessible for more people to do more basic stuff. But for the more advanced stuff, I think it's becoming more and more competitive and more competitive to be a good developer, because the assistants are available to everyone. So the gap between a good developer and a relatively good developer is still there, right?
Right.
Having the
No,
same assistants and same tools. Yeah.
yeah, of course. No, that makes a lot of sense. And also, technology as a whole is becoming more and more advanced, even if I suppose even the technology to make it available to be low code has to be good, you know? So things, things overall from someone who doesn't really understand much about tech, it just seems to be growing more and more complex. So yeah, there'll also be need for good developers.
Yeah, and I mean, what a good developer means might change, because that's all. That's the thing with writing, right? That okay, at some point, writing was to write 2 paragraphs that have no spelling mistakes. Now with ChatGPT, let's say you don't have this risk, or no one makes grammatical mistakes intentionally, right? But the real value is how to give the right prompts to get the right kind of message, right? And then work it to make it something really unique. And it's the same with developers. I mean, the code can be automated, but it will follow some instructions. Who will give these instructions and in what way to make in the end the final output to be the right one for the right use and for the right outcome. So good developers will also be good users of AI. There's no doubt about it.
No, it's a really good example. I was actually thinking of that, you know, with ChatGPT, as you just said. I heard that Amazon is inundated with, you know, self-published books created on ChatGPT. So there's a difference between good writers and bad writers, you know. People still prefer to buy books, you know, hopefully, written by human. But it's been a thing lately, so I'm just curious that you mentioned that. Yeah.
Of course, but even the most successful AI written books, they came for a very, very successful prompt, right? Or set
Oh
of
yes, of
prompts that
course.
were given by a human, right? I
Of
mean,
course.
we could both say, okay, let's write an article about, I don't know, about developer marketing. And my article can suck and your can be great because you said other things and you fed different inputs to AI. So it's something similar with coding, right?
Yeah.
That from explaining your application, from explaining your objective, and in the end, seeing it translate and fine tuning it along the way so that it looks great and is optimal.
Oh no, absolutely. AI can be a great assistant. That absolutely agreed. Yeah. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for all your insights. Before we go, I just want to ask if you have any final advice or thoughts or anything around this topic that you'd like to leave our listeners with.
Thank you very much, first of all, for the invitation. As I said, I sometimes feel like an imposter in the field of developer marketing or of anything, to be honest, right? In a startup, a lot of the things that the only thing I have to advise is that people, especially working in growth with developer tools and platforms, just need to try out stuff, right? So there's no real recipe that I have to recommend other than just trying stuff quickly, making sure that, you know, you focus on the content. There are a lot of best practices, of course, right? So obviously writing good content, obviously creating communities and stuff like that is important, but the most important is to just be out there, be working with developers, with your possible clients or users, understanding from them and just repeating the stuff that actually works. And actually, that's a good point. One point I only have is that never write something in your website that you are not ready to fight about, right? Every word needs to have a meaning and needs to be backed up. There's no space for, for fluffy words when you're talking to this kind of audiences.
Right. That's really interesting. You just have to be ready to fight your corner on anything you put down. Yeah.
Every word that is there is something that you have to be able to fight with, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
I love that. No, I love that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate this. Lots of good points here. And again, things I've not heard before from anyone. And I find that fascinating. So thank you.
That's great. Thank you for the invitation, for the experience. And looking forward to hearing more from your podcast and your story. So thanks so much.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Devmar Debugged. If you want to hear more from professionals in the developer marketing world, subscribe to our podcast for more expert talks. See you on the next one.